Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. I'm joined by an absolute shaman musician and a brilliant cat, John Handy. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. How you doing?
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
You know, I want you to talk to the audience about the first time you got on the bandstand at Ronnie Scott's with Joe Harriet. He was not nice to you.
Not at all.
And then he said, well, we're going to play. I want you to tell that story. And in fact, yeah, break that story down. And what was was he fusing jazz with Indian music?
Not on the bandstand. I didn't know who he was, and I'd never seen him and heard of him at the time. It was my first time going to Europe. 1961, in the fall, September as a matter of fact. And I was on a tour I was on a tour with John Mahegan. You remember John?
Sure.
John was teaching at Juilliard, and somehow he had a student who was, I think, a Pan American, old Pan American Airlines exec, and he was. I think that's how we ended on that tour, with that tour. And John played piano, of course, and we had Barry White. Barry he's changed his name. He's a piano player now. He was a young drummer.
Really?
Yeah, he's a pianist now. He was 12 years old, and a little 12. We all babysat Barry Miles.
Barry Miles. Absolutely ferocious.
He was 12 years old. He was our drummer.
Oh.
Julian Ewell, who is still alive, was our bass player. Who was living in Washington, D.C., and I was able to choose Julian. John asked me to get a bass player. And so the tour actually consisted of about close to 30, 35 people, not just a jazz quartet. It was a tour to lure European tourists to America. It was during Greyhound bus.
I love it. Tour de Lure.
Yeah,
1961, basically.
1961, I believe. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Right.
Tour to lure European tourists to America and New York in particular. It was sponsored by, I believe, by the Grey Lines, the tourists. I don't know if they still have them. The Greyhound bus who was featuring 99 days for $99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I dig.
Yeah. So then we had a cowboy. We took things that they didn't normally have. We had park rangers, and park rangers, customs people, immigration. So we took a whole, a number of people that we needed, that people would encounter when they came to the States. And I think we toured for about 7 weeks, and we started in London, and that's how they started to bug, meaning the immigration people started to bug Julian Yule immediately about his bass. What are you going to do with that? Of course, he's a musician, and they were the musicians union was kind of reluctant to let players and musicians in and play in London, in England.
Why was this?
I don't know. Maybe there's the source of gigs, or and I kind of dug that.
Well, I mean, jazz was a popular music at that time, so you were trying to lure them over to tour the States.
Yeah, well, not the musicians so much.
No, let's be clear. But what happened on the bandstand with Harriet? Harriet was a jerk to you, man.
Well, I couldn't believe it. I've never been treated like that by anybody. But what happened is, because they were, the musicians union was not, didn't welcome us, well, it started with customers, and apparently they knew each other. And so they wouldn't.
Yeah.
We
But I want to be clear. You were American musicians, so that's why you weren't being treated well.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. And American jazz musicians, even when they okay.
Yeah, throw that in there.
So what happened is we had about 2 or 3 other towns to perform, or we didn't always. The band didn't always play. They always had. We had also a beauty queen too. That she was always on the bus. The buses, by the way, Pan Am flew us over, and we toured in a Greyhound bus.
Okay. Barry Miles was on drums.
On drums. Yeah.
I cannot wait to call Barry after
and
this.
we all babysat him.
Oh my God!
And a little 12-year-old boy. He was a sweet kid. We all took care of Barry.
Oh yeah, brilliant cat. Unreal.
And okay, they didn't let's see, something on Birmingham. We decided not to go because the musicians union was gonna bug us. And Stratford up on Avon, is that Stratford? We didn't go there. We didn't go anywhere. The musicians stayed in town while the rest of the tour went there and did their business. And that's how I found out about the jam session at Ronnie Scott's.
Right.
And I forgot, we were living in a park that's well known, in a nice hotel. And in a nice hotel. And we had a little problem there because, I don't know, we were, John Mahegan, and we didn't dress up with ties all the time. We had nice clothes, But anyhow, they started to treat us with a little disdain. They would send the bass, and I'm not just Julian and me. We're both African Americans, but John, would sit together, the band, and and John was older than he was in his early, so he was kind of the head, the band leader, and as such, he didn't dress like with a shirt and tie on. Well, they started, instead of sending waiters over, to wait on us, they started sending bus boys. Yeah. And so what we
Jeez.
did is we tipped them so large that they started wanting to come back, and we would demand, no, we wanted the
We want the bus boys.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
yeah, we were there for about a week. So the jam session was on a Sunday.
Was it Stratford Day of On?
Well, that's where they went. It was one of our scheduled towns to go,
Right.
and the band didn't go. We never went any further than London, and I heard about the jam session, so I found my way there with the taxi, and it was in the early, in the mid afternoon Sunday, and they played for a while, and I thought, the guys saw I was close to the bandstand, that I might get a motion or to come up, and if I wanted to, and so it was getting later, and at some point it was going to end. So I kind of went on the side, and I asked Joe if I could play, and he was on the bandstand, kind of tall guy, and I've been playing for a number of years, and nobody ever acted that way. So after they played a piece, he said, "We've got a young man who says he plays alto, and we're going to invite." He said he wants to play some blues, but he'd asked me if I wanted to play. I couldn't think of anything else, and he said, "So he's going to play some blues. I don't know something really."
No, he said, I don't know what he's going to play, but I know what we're going to play.
Yeah, he said something like, "I don't know what he's going to play, but it was not nice." And so, I went up, and he kicked it off so fast. It was like ridiculous. It was really, really fast. And I I let him play. Let's see, I think I played first. And it was like, and I could play.
He couldn't play it.
And he couldn't play it.
He couldn't play
it, and the band. The only people who were left, I had to play with the drummer and bass player. And after a while, the drummer dropped out, and the bass player played cut time. And so when he finished, I think he might have left the bandstand. I know he did. After he didn't play, he just left me up there, and so I played. And
you just played by yourself.
Yeah, with the and not with the full rhythm section because let's see, I think it was the pianist who dropped out because he couldn't play the tempo, and somebody else did. But I ended up either with the bassist and drummer, and they were playing half time, cut time, half of them, of their rhythm, volume or speed. And so that was my introduction to it. I found out who he was, and I didn't know. As I said, I didn't know him, and that was the way he acted.
Can you put in perspective for my generation and future generations? Dexter, Johnny Griffin, all these cats wound up moving to Europe, and some people would say, well, it's because there was no racism there, but I've heard that there's plenty of racism there. It's just
they brought it here.
But why did they move there? Just because they were treated like they actually got paid for gigs and stuff?
No, I don't know because my money was guaranteed through the U.S.
But you knew plenty of cats were going there.
I knew a lot of guys were going there, and I realized after I did 5 weeks on 7 weeks. I think it was 5 weeks. I made a mistake earlier. 5 weeks, and I had made arrangements with a young Swedish guy who had called me, who had made a short movie from a composition that I'd recorded, and it was entitled "Booze Ups and Downs." That's B-O-O, like nickname, B-O-O apostrophe S, "Booze Ups and Downs," which was about a female who lived here, piano player and singer, who was from Texas, and she had a brother here, Hadley Callman. She was Florence.
Wait, Hadley was her brother?
Hadley was her brother, who was a valve trombone player. Anyhow, she came here, and she had two beautiful children. Her husband had been killed in an auto accident. Here she was 23 years old, and she went on a gig out in Monterey and had an automobile accident.
Right.
And was it just really ruined her. It marred her face. Her good looks, her beautiful looks were marred, and so I got to know her as a friend. And when I went to New York, I ran into her there, and she had married a guy who was a junkie. and anyhow, I had a little. They came to our house, and it was kind of ugly. I didn't get into it, but it was really sad for her. So I wrote a piece called "Booze Ups and Downs." This kid had called me, and he had made a short movie. He did a scenario. He wrote, Klaus Feldbaum, who started making movies that were played in Sweden. He's Swedish, by the way. Since he was 15 years old, he was 18 at the time, and it turned out he called me in New York before I left. It was just a coincidence that I was going to Europe, and when we finished our tour in Italy, I went all the way up to Stockholm, and he got several gigs for me, and we toured in there in Denmark, and so his movie was it's on Roulette Records, by the way. I think it's my second album with him.
It was a Mafia label.
Yeah, you know about that.
Oh
too.
yeah. There's nothing I don't know.
I know.
So I did. Continue. I didn't mean to cut this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyhow, that movie, I think, which was about 11 minutes, was a Swedish entry into the Cannes movie festival,
Sure.
the Edinburgh, and the San Francisco film festival of '63, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm going 60.
Booze up and down?
Booze, like it was B.O. It was like booze and owning it, B.O. apostrophe S, booze ups and downs. Yeah, and so it was with that and so he was invited to, the kid was invited to the San Francisco festival. He came a couple of years later, and I rode from New York on a bus with him so he could see America instead of taking a plane.
Sure.
So it was Klaus later became very famous as a movie, as a TV person, and his wife he married a lady who was a conductor of the symphony orchestra. Okay, I'm having a little.
No, you're doing great.
Yeah.
The audience is clamoring for you to play some improvisation. Can you play a little more for us?
Oh, I haven't been.
Haven't seen these horns in a few years.
Mm-hmm. I'm not. Yeah, what I play now. In the same key. I'm not proud.
Sounds just perfect. You know, Mingus called his music Mingus music. Did you guys call the music jazz, or was that a? I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea of whether.
You mean when I was during the time?
I mean, the late '50s, like when the music was. I mean, Mingus called his music. There were other people that like my music is it's music. It's Mingus or Duke Ellington. It's all music.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you ever want to call your music jazz music?
I didn't know anything else when I was a number of years. I accepted what was there for a while, and I resented it. At least I questioned when
The motives.
the motives, but I questioned that. Yeah, but I actually didn't question it until years later when I became aware of what racism meant, what race prejudice meant, and what a lot of connotations of words that started to make sense as I increased an awareness as an older person and started to know about life as such. And yes, I questioned it, and there are times that I resented it because I know it was used to be JASS, and there were all kinds of things like, and considering the origins, or at least the historical, the book, the books, the historical writings about the music and that where it came from. Some of it, it wasn't all in sex that I'm told.
Right. It did come across as like it was a music for houses of brothels or houses of ill repute. Yeah. The thing is that did you like Train and Charlie Neville and Sonny Rollins? They all started on the R&B circuits. Mm-hmm. Did you?
I did both. Kind of.
Can you talk about some of those groups you played with?
Well, most of the groups I started playing here in Oakland when I very recently come here. As a 15-year-old, 10th grader. Wow. And right in the midst of the semester, I got here in late October and started to go to McClymonds High School, which is known now for its great athletes. We started to integrate enough in sports. And some of these people were sought after because of their athletic
prowess.
ability.
Yeah.
And I came here also actually if I was doing anything other than going to school and going to class, which I always did. I considered myself more of an athlete than I did a musician because I'd gone to private school, St. Peter's Academy in Dallas. And by the time I was in the 9th grade, all of the good players, people who were ahead of me had graduated, and there was very little music. And except for classical piano and voice. And so I did sports. We played softball, and, I'm a home run hitter.
Going for the home run, yeah, absolutely.
I was not a big person, but I got a lot of power. I could hit. I was a home run hitter, and I wasn't always the guy that people expected to. If we did Sandlot game, I wasn't always the first one called. But then after a while, they could see I played better than most.
Well, then the outfielders would play real shallow, and you'd hit it over their heads, right?
Yeah,
knock it out, right?
I did that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then I boxed. I got in. I had no idea why I did, but I did, and I didn't know I was that. Well, I'm fast. I'll put it that way. I didn't know that much about boxing, but we had some training a little bit, and I beat everybody. The first guy I boxed was who was 18 years old. I was 14. A killer at 127 pounds. And he had fought in preliminaries, and I was really concerned. But I've always believed in myself. I thought if I'm really going to box this guy, I'm going to beat him. And I did. I beat him. And so I had about 15 bouts. And that's part of what I have, a thumb that was knocked out of place. And I didn't want to tell my mom I was only 14, and she didn't want me to box. She didn't want me to do anything that boys do, like football, because of my size. So anyhow, I did that because there was hardly anything else to do. I didn't live in the African American community as such. I very seldom did. We lived in an area called Beverly Hills in Dallas. It was the bookstore where Kennedy was, the famous bookstore. I caught a bus there, especially going home. And you went to the right, and you went down into the area under the train overpass, and it was very well manicured, with the plants and all. I rode that every day to go to school and whenever else we left Beverly Hills, which is way out west, damn near Fort Worth. And I lived in North. I went to school in North Dallas, St. Peter's Academy, and it was about, in terms of miles away from school, Roger, if you went from here I'd approximate it, going from here to Daly City. That's where we had to go to school, and we lived, meaning my sister and I, and we were the only African Americans in that area for about 3 years, for 3 years until we left. And that was after we had, by the way, we'd been there with almost 3 years. We'd only been from LA about 2 years. I'd forgotten about that. Lived in LA during World War II for a short while, 10 and 11 years old. And I always skipped. Every time we came to California, we always skipped. I did, and my sister. So I went to school very late. Parents broke up when I was very young. As per usual, very young. And I started school quite late. I started on time, and went for about 2 weeks and didn't show up again the semester was almost over. And the teacher, I came in by myself, and she said, "Who are you?" And everybody turned around and looked at me. I was so embarrassed. So I was there about 3 weeks, and I didn't go back until I was 8 years and 7 months of starting in the first grade again. So I never did the third and fourth. I did the 5th grade. I stayed in the 7th grade for 2 weeks. I mean, the 8th grade for 2 weeks. I skipped it, actually. That's what and so academically, I was a good student. I don't know how, because I didn't think of myself as, I had books. You had to do that. And
well, did Lowell Folsom give you who gave you your first gig on the
well, you're jumping ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, we don't need to go. I mean, I guess that was
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was what I did before I left Dallas. At 15, I was a 10th grader, and came here, and I played clarinet. I started playing clarinet a short while before I turned 13.
Recorder, I thought.
It is. I did. I had a recorder before that. I was about 12.
You were playing Nat King Cole tunes on the recorder.
Oh yeah. I was doing. You remember this?
You can't get anything by me. Dude.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Once it's. Yeah, I have the recorder upstairs.
I love it. And so you played. You were able to play all those tunes.
Yeah.
Those jazz tunes.
Yeah. Caledonia. It was all that was. Okay. Then I got a clarinet, and I, trying to play I learned some solo, little, bits and pieces of Louis Jordan songs. His solos, like "Ain't Nobody Here But Us Chickens," and I loved, we'd have a jazz Saturday afternoon grand prize dance parade. The grand prize, which is a beer, I think, or maybe that was the name of the program. But we'd hear big bands and small groups. And I lived in Beverly Hills, which was white, a white district. And so the radio was our communicator and our inspiration for our entertainment. And not so much inspiration, but entertainment. And before that, as a young kid, I knew all the soap operas because we lived in Highland Park with the mother worked for a family that spawned a young lady out there who married Joe Alioto, who was our mayor. Yeah. So I've known that. This is all before I came here. I was just a little bitty kid with the. It's not DeGeneros, but I don't want to embarrass anybody here. But they're families of the Aliotos, and he married who married into that Alioto family, and we lived in Highland Park with them, and so I've lived mostly in Dallas in the South, which that's the only place I really lived, where African Americans normally not at all lived. So my sister and I were kind of isolated most of our lives until I would come into California, where we could walk to school, and at one point, after we went back to Dallas, I could walk to school for about a year and a half. We were always moving. I went to high school in 3 states.
What I'm trying to get at is this idea of how did the R&B, because the blues is right alongside the jazz, and I just trying to figure out who you first, the circuit. Ron Carter was going on gospel circuits when he was at Eastman in upstate New York. What were you doing on the circuit? What kind of chitlin circuit were you on?
I was never in a chitlin. First of all, we never liked chitlins. Everybody liked the damn chitlins, I resent that,
I do.
And a lot of guys, I think, defame themselves and disrespect ourselves, and they don't by acting, using words like funk and all. This is totally not. And I've had problems with some of the practices that we had fun amongst ourselves saying, no damn chitlins. I don't want chitlins. I didn't even like pork chops. My mother never cooked a lot of pork with us. We got the ham and the bacon when we could afford it, And that's kind of like what Mingus said, we eat that chicken, he said, a mama, a little baby likes shortening bread. I don't even know what shortening bread is. I never saw any shortening bread.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah. And so, there, I moved, after I moved here, because there's, my life is 70 years, so I have to jump way ahead, and I forget decades and decades because so much has happened. And I have a pretty good memory at times, I can go back to 9 months. Yeah. So anyhow, I did.
So yeah, what were your first real gigs? I mean, what kind of?
Okay, I came here at 15, and I had played clarinet, and the things kind of went awry in terms of music, and especially that I wanted to play. And I did marching bands and concert stuff in Dallas. When I came here, I met a guy who was a drummer, Victor Green. Victor was my age, and we met, and he told me that there was a concert that was going to be played by students, in our school. Our school, by the way, was about almost twice as big as the one that I'd gone to in Dallas, and we went from kindergarten to the 12th grade with 500, and there are about 800 people at McClymonds, and about a third African Americans, I'd say, and almost as many Latinos, and the others are Caucasians. So here that's a big school compared to what we had. So I went to hear the concert. They were marvelous. Dance band, as they call them. They never called them jazz bands when I was the dance band.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I played. I went to that, and I was knocked out. There were kids my age who was playing fantastic big band. So I went to the band room rehearsal the next day, and I said I wanted to play. And anyhow, the guy, the conductor was a little short guy who was wonderful. Joe Payson, the conductor of the jazz band and the concert band, and he was screaming loud, you want to play in the band? I'm standing next to him, and all the players, there were guys, my age and, up to about 2 years older, and they said knew what he was doing, and they were laughing. He said, well, do you have a horn? I said, no, I didn't have a saxophone. I didn't take my clarinet. Somehow we left it in Dallas. And so he he played something. He said, can you read? I haven't read music for a while. And I did talk. I had read. And so he got something in a book, and then pulled out a sax. One kid said, "I'll let him have a mouthpiece." He said, "Well, I guess I can let you have a horn." Another kid, "I'll give him a reed," and so he gave me the horn, and went to the last page in a book, and he told me to read it, and I didn't read it well at all, and so he took the horn and just played in it, just a honk, 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 but he was reading it, and so he gave it back to me, and I played it, everything up to where he stopped. So I memorized it that quickly.
Wow.
So I ended up in the band. I mean, not the dance band that semester. We had 2 concert bands, so I was in both. And then 2 days I was playing lead, like I did when I first started. I was playing first year in both bands, concert bands, and the dance band was the next year. And some great players. Sonny Simmons was there. He's young, a year, 6 months younger. He didn't play in the band. I think Pony Poindexter was an alto player. I believe he went to McClymonds before I did.
Okay, so he was a little bit older than you.
Yeah, I don't know how much, but
What horn? What is this horn here?
that's a tenor.
Can we hear a little bit of this?
Okay, I haven't played that in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you did fine.
No, it's just that's. I started playing tenor mainly because there's a book here. As a matter of fact, I think there's a book that has 4 musicians on the front. The name of the book is Harlem of the West, and it is about African American culture, entertainment culture, in the Bay Area from I think the 40s, 50s, and 60s. The cover has 4 musicians, left to right. It's John Handy at 18 years old holding a tenor, and I wasn't really playing tenor then. That's Teddy Edwards' tenor I'm holding. Next to my left, going left to right, Poindexter's playing alto.
Wow.
And next to him is John Coltrane, standing there next to him with his tenor. And next to John is a guy, Frank Fisher, who is still alive. And he and John are probably a week or 2 at the same age. And Frank is still here.
Train and Fish are still, they were tight? They were the same age?
They're the same age, yeah.
Wow.
About the same height, Yeah, we're all mostly Southerners, African Americans from the South, like John was too, Coltrane.
Where was he from?
Somewhere in North Carolina.
North Carolina, that's right.
Hamlet or someplace like that. Yeah.
Below the Mason-Dixon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to play the tenor, it'd be great.
Man, it's just, first of all, not playing it, but I was encouraged to play tenor by musicians who, especially some of the guys who are ahead of me, older, and it's probably because I don't practice well enough, long enough. I haven't practiced consistently to be the alto player that I could be, and tenor players. I can't say that now because some of them are just amazing, especially playing in the upper register. And to play a horn, the reed is not. It's not even. You have to. These instruments need moisture, to blow them and get them. They don't play. It don't play right away. This mouthpiece, by the way, was given to me by a kid. He would just hand it to me in high school, and I'm still using it. A number of people have played this mouthpiece, including John and Coltrane, and he played it just for a few minutes, and he said, "Take it back." He said, "I won't want to give it back to you." He didn't play metal. He played metal mouthpieces. He didn't play hard rubber, and he loved this mouthpiece, and so of course I wasn't going to give it to him. But he did play one of my mouthpieces when he was here with Miles in '56. Something happened. He was having trouble with his dentures and his dental problems. He didn't have false teeth. But
He didn't have false teeth? So a lot of cats, Red Holloway, some of those cats did.
A lot of them did. A lot of them did have problems with,
Because Pat Martino used to go into the restrooms and these shaman cats would be taking their teeth out.
Oh, Pat Martino, these guys. My problem with most of jazz is the social side. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what was going on.
You didn't want to see it.
I want to see people be around people who weren't hurting themselves
Yeah.
and hurting all of us, meaning mostly African Americans, especially if they're African Americans, because don't we have enough problems without having people who are who are strung out on drugs and who need things that they shouldn't, that are detrimental to them, and something that brings us all down in terms of we're mass judged no matter what. We're mass judged as a group of people, and I think it's damn selfish of junkies to do that, and not knowing what. I can't totally put everything down because I don't know why they do it. I really don't know. I sometimes I felt sorry for guys. I've given people money and things like that, and I've found out that they were in my band and I didn't know it. Because
they were just using it to buy junk.
I didn't even want to know. You mentioned several people that were doing things in my band, and I couldn't stop them. And if I did, and I was considered. I mean, I've been called square this and square that, and I'm fairly nice. I have a nice, an even temperament, and because look, I was a boxer who never lost a fight. I didn't ever want to hurt anybody, and I didn't. I got angry to a point that I stopped playing for about. Stopped organizing bands. I was afraid I was going to be mean and get into it with someone physically, and I really didn't, because I don't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to, and so I did the college circuit and gigs where you didn't have to have a band. I'd go and do a clinic in a school, mostly universities, and then I performed with the group. The money was decent, and I didn't have to deal with anybody but myself. So that's what I did until I did hard work. That's okay.
Feel free to play.
Well, let's see, man. It's this reed. I have not played this one. I'm gonna even put a neck strap though. Yeah. Oh, scared me.
wanted to ask you about, this is really important. Can you riff on reincarnation and when you began to believe heavily in reincarnation?
What do you mean, of Lovebird, Mingus's music?
No, just reincarnation in general.
I don't, reincarnation of what? I don't know.
Of us, of people.
Of people, the reincarnation. Oh, I can't do that with a horn.
No, I'm saying your belief in reincarnation.
Oh, do I believe? I'm not sure. You know, it sounds to me like this is it's so much growing up as under the influence of religion, of the Christ and the God.
Organized religion, yeah.
Organized, yes, as such. You know, we weren't churchgoers, but my mom wasn't, but we went to a number of denominations, churches of the different denominations, the Sunday school for a short while in my life. So I went to Baptist, Church of God in Christ, and Church of the Living God, and Baptist, and Presbyterian, even the Seventh-day Adventist. So I got in, and my sister and I, when I was 14, we became the first Catholics and I'm sure that was due to the fact that we went to St. Peter's Academy and we had catechism every day. Okay, and I'm in and off of saying to understanding or accepting the God figure as such, because the people from whom we, meaning me, African Americans, got this from, I really questioned whether or not they were pagans first, and
right.
You know, they weren't Christians either.
That's right.
And many of them act like pagans now. You know,
that's right. That's a very good point.
Yeah, they have never really. And so I question anybody who wants to enslave me, who's too damn lazy to work and do their own damn work and have me do it, because I'm not lazy. I'm not that dumb. You know, I know I believe in justice, and I don't. If there's a God, I don't want to make any enemies wherever it goes. I don't want to say up there. It could be down there, but in the meantime, you know, I question a lot of things of people who have done what they've done historically to me and mine, and even to themselves, because they're too damn ignorant to know that nothing is forever, and you don't get away with any. You don't even get away with good things most of the time. They're saying that nothing but bad things, and so it works itself out. Even the rulers, people who are ahead, tend through the years to lose their will to rule when they're in power. They get lazy, they get so much, and they get somebody else comes out who is just meaner, even meaner, and more potentially dangerous. And we usually end up destroying each other, no matter who you are and what you are, and what you look like.
People are. I mean, you are just I love it right now. I mean, you know, one of the things that's important. I've dedicated my show to it. The motherland, which it was Africa. First instruments were created there. The first universities, medicine, so many things were created there. But cats like Ahmad Jamal wouldn't go play there because of apartheid. And I'm just curious about the first time that you went to the motherland to perform, and what was the most enlightening thing about?
Well, as close as the motherland as I got was not. I didn't go into the deepest into the interior. I was in the Mideast in about 9 countries.
So you like Pakistan and Indiana? India?
I went to India first. You know, which is
with Ustad.
I only know one of 2 people from India who admit that they have African origins. You know, they're always.
Well, they need to come clean.
All they have to do is look at the continent and see how it was divided. It fits right in the African.
So you actually never been to the motherland?
No, I only to the Mideast, India, of course. Well, then, but I went to Saudi Arabia, Syria. Is that where the Damascus?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We were there 2 hours and I heard machine gun fire. And other guys in the van went later, and I found out, so I just kept we'd only been there 2 hours and had dinner. And, I was in the military, and my MOS was dealing with arms up to the motor and all of that. I learned how to. I used to know how to repair a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
And I fired everything, but the 45, but I know how to take it apart and reassemble it, make minor repairs. So I understood what it was, and when I found myself still alive the next morning because I wouldn't use the phone. I was afraid to bring attention maybe to myself or the group, and so when we met we met with our ambassador. That's what we were doing. We were part of a tour for the American government. Then they didn't know what it was. They heard it, but nobody, even Jimmy Nepper, who was older, and nobody but myself. I knew, and it scared the heck out of me. And I asked our ambassador, who was an American. He said, "Well, that's the way we settle things over here in the machine." So I wasn't happy. Then we still had this. We had 6 days in where are we?
Damascus.
Syria.
It's there, yeah.
Damascus, and they whoever, some of the locals there. We met a few musicians, and Jimmy Nepper and I played. We played with some, I had been and with some of the belly dancing, Egyptian dancing.
You were playing with local cats.
Yeah,
Nepper and Handy with the local.
Yeah, we kind of went
the road to Damascus.
Yeah, we were on math. We were there.
What was that? Did you play Arabic music with them?
Yeah, but see, that wasn't. I had encountered that here because of San Francisco.
Right.
We had Egyptian dancers right there practically next door from the jazz workshop.
Vince Delgado, the drummer, used to play there.
Yes,
Well, I just interviewed Vince. Yeah, no, so he would play there, and then Ben Riley would come over and hang with him because he was playing Dumbag and all that.
Yeah, he's still around.
Vince is in San Anselmo, man.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He's cooking. There. He's playing his ass off.
Well, we played some stuff. I used him on some gigs with Bach Dancing and Dynamite Society
Oh boy, there we go. Yeah, no, I was going to say that. So you already were privy to the Arabic stuff, but what was it like with the indigenous cats there with Nepper?
It was Nepper was different. He's.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Is he originally from L.A. or from New York?
I don't know.
Yeah, he
had such a mercurial cat.
Yeah, he had a house in Staten Island. I remember that, and he had known Mingus since around 47. When he was and. He was almost like a country farmer.
Absolutely. He was a farmer. He's a farmer, man.
Jim and Nepper was fun to be around, and then he would get kind of crazy, again. And these guys, some of these guys are so funny, and he'd been through drugs with the thing, the heroin.
The junk, yeah.
The junk, but overall, Jimmy had a human side, and he get a little crazy, but I think we all get a little crazy being in this stuff, in this music, and what we deal with, extra musical problems. And just living is not always a problem. We're exposed more than a lot of people to different lifestyles and different factions of life that a lot of people don't, because especially if you're traveling internationally, not everybody does the same thing the same way, but if they do it their way. It's a little different, We all breathe the same oxygen, and we need the same kind of things for maintenance for life. And so I don't agree with everything, and but I think, as most of us, I agree with most, but not everything. I don't like the way how people are treated in some of the other cultures, how women are treated, and how some women treat men. Not all of them are nice girls, not at all.
Believe me, I was privy to that last night at a concert. My God, it was the Nazi police out there. I mean, again, I'm just in jest, but it goes both ways. But what was how much of your music was meant to social justice is the wrong word, but
Well, I might.
you were part of. Was there a period where you were really trying to create movement music?
Yeah, well, I won't say maybe it wasn't music. I played music, and I didn't write things with certain lyrics. Actually, I did, but I didn't record some things. But I did during the during the early '60s. I organized a group called the Freedom Band, and it was used. We used it to raise funds for the Civil Rights Movement. Wow. So yeah, then that was never recorded. I've got some music. Actually, I might have a tape. We had a fire in here about 9 years ago, and I lost a lot of performance tapes.
You play like black student unions, or like what were you? How would you raise the money?
We played jazz clubs. We even played the jazz workshop at one point. Rallies and
I dig.
and university campuses.
Did you play for Dr. King ever?
No, I never did. I was never the closest I was ever to him. And he, by the way, he was my inspiration to get involved. It was in New York.
Beautiful.
At the Cooper Union, he did a speech there.
Sure.
And I happened to go, and I felt guilty because he was not more than 3 or 4 years older, and he was putting himself out there, and I felt guilty that I wasn't doing it. So I got involved in New York, and we started to. Actually, okay. There are two things I want to talk about a little bit. I started to read more. It's always kind of, I wasn't unaware of stuff that was going on, like in South and where was that? Lumumba, that stuff that went on in.
Patrice Lumumba, you're talking about?
Yeah, Patrice. I remember that stuff in the sit-ins of the African American young people younger than I, somewhat.
Peaceful revolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I started to got in the picket lines, and I believed in them. Woolworths and uptown around 120th or something, 115th, 16th. I picketed outside. It was nothing.
Wow.
There, and I picketed Broadway. Where all the theaters are. Subways are for sleeping. And you can't get on a subway and not see, in those years, I don't know what it's like now, but not see an African American. And there was not, as to my knowledge, not one in the cast. And so I picketed that. And so it was just, outside picketing. And I felt, at least that I was there. And the more I got involved, my girlfriend and I, who had eventually moved back here. I came back to go to school because I know I had some problems here with having thought I'd already graduated in New York and didn't. I couldn't believe it. So anyhow, that's about the third time, and I came back to school, and so I put it this way, with a BA, and however nice things have developed a little bit out where at my alma mater. I graduated with 174 units, and a BA for me and my group was only 124. So, I mean, I can't forget that.
Hard work.
Totally. Hard work. Yeah, it was. It was really.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm one of the most educated bachelor holders, and I don't have a legal master's, but I took out everything they have in there. And I wasn't a great student by the time I got to college. I was a brilliant student before I picked up the horn. I passed all of, I finished school in 9 years, one of those without it. And when you're going to pull out of school in the midst of 10th grade, 1st grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, and I'm lucky that I finished. I'm the first one in my family to finish college. Now we've got several PhDs.
You clearly are. You brought a lot of good genes to the table. I mean, did you have a relationship with Rahsaan Roland Kirk?
I heard him for the first time in New York, and where did I hear him first? Because
Slugs.
He said, "I don't know. I was playing with Randy Weston."
Wow.
1959 at the Five Spot. We were there for 4 months. I mean, I had 6 nights a week with a matinee on Sunday. And he showed up, and I think I'm trying to recall whether or not I heard him before that. But I think I had at a jam session because you went to jam sessions to, give your address, exchange addresses. You're new and
Right.
you're young, and I think he was at a jam session. Then he showed up at Rams on our gig at our matinee. Cliff Jarvis, 17-year-old playing
Drummer,
drums.
unreal. Man.
Probably Sam Jones or Abdul Malik, but was playing bass. Randy, of course, piano, and I played. Randy wouldn't let me play the alto. I had started playing alto when I went back to New York in '58. I played, I bought a tenor because when I came home from Korea in '55, I'm skipping around a bit.
Sorry.
My alto was, because of the humidity there, my alto was green. It turned green. So I bought this horn, the tenor, because I've been encouraged to play tenor. And so I played tenor for 3 years exclusively until about 2 months before I went back to New York. I bought an alto from a guy, Buddy Howells, who was a brother from Detroit and had a big band here. And I was the only brother in the band besides him. He was the leader. 18-piece band, I was the only brother in it. And then I went from people saying, well, he can play, but he can't read. But anyhow, I was playing first alto.
But Randy wouldn't let you play it.
Randy wouldn't let me play alto. I was subbing for a guy named James Dinwiddie from Chicago.
Gene Dinwiddie.
Gene Dinwiddie.
Oh man,
Yeah.
He played in the Butterfield Blues Band. Yeah,
Is that he did? Was
incredible tambourine player too.
Okay, fantastic.
Gene Dinwiddie.
Well, Gene didn't have his cabaret card.
Oh,
And
that
Randy
big
got-
problems.
And Randy got the gig, and I had played with Mingus at Five Spot a few months earlier, and I got my card because Mingus got it for me. So I had a card, and I played every night thinking it was going to be the end of the gig, because I played a few gigs with Randy before I did Charles. I've forgotten a trumpet player who got me a number of gigs with Randy, and he went to.
Johnny Coles?
No, it wasn't Johnny. No,
Howard McGee?
no, he had a Muslim name, and he had played with me, and he played very well, and he liked me, heard me at a jam session, and so I played a few things with Randy first, and then Mingus, and then back to Randy. So I'm back to Randy now, and every night. For 2 weeks, I thought I wasn't going to be there. And one night he said, if you want the gig, it's yours. And we were there for 4 months. And that's a lot of time, 6 nights a week with the Sunday matinee. And business was good. On 3rd Street, it was right down the street from, when you come out of Cooper Union, it was to the right, about 2 blocks. And that's where Monk and Train and those guys had played, and Monk and the Baroness was in there almost every night.
Oh, the Baroness. I love that. So, I mean, before we wrap, this is just, it's just been an amazing session here. Mm-hmm. What is your concept of love, and how do you bring love to the world, John?
Well, so love, I think, is it's not something that I think love sometimes is so, and even in our music, in our art, and when we reach the point of art, because sometimes it has to develop to the point of being art on a certain level, and sometimes, and most of the time, I think if it's really true art, it's hard to express it verbally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's all the words are adequate. And real love is manifested in how you relate, how you feel, and how you feel and how you react, and caring, and it has to be always concern for yourself and other people and things around you. And not all of it is love. Some things are scary, and things scare me and frighten me. I will protect myself, if whatever that means.
You never lost a boxing match.
No, that I did. I used to hit people and apologize actually, and I knew I shouldn't be there because I've hit people and yeah.
You have is that the kind of the love you had with Ustad Ali Akbar Khan?
Yeah. I have a love. I have a very my love really extends to most everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and unless they ruin it with disrespect. And many times that's not to me, to the other people and to themselves. And what I consider disrespecting one's own body, one's own soul, if there's whatever soul is, you know, that the love. I can hold it. I can hold it for something else, you know, whatever love. Affection, love, it has different echelons of you know, love isn't the same for everything. Okay, that's where I feel. You know, I have a different love for my wife, different love for you and Roger. If Roger lend me some money though, I love him more. You know.
So you can buy another house? Man has all this money from buying property.
14 rooms, and it's unreal. Hey, listen, before we wrap, you inspired so many people out there. Just finish maybe with Roger and Grover Washington Jr. with just relentlessly putting on Mingus's pork pie hat to listen to your solo. Just finish with an ode to Mingus and a prayer for peace.
No, to Mingus. Could I do it to somebody else?
You play for who? Play for peace.
No, play for peace.
Play for peace.
No,
John Handy, folks.
I loved Charles, and in some ways, sometimes I didn't. And he didn't know. I'm looking for him. Oh, that's right. I don't have a neck strap. That's
right.
Putting it on. Yeah, Charles is the kind of guy, by the way, you know, because many times people really want to know how mean he was, and that's almost every interview they want to know, was he good, and how much did he, how much abuse did, you know, you encounter or saw him mete out to other people, and yes, I thought Charles was mentally ill. At a very young age, I really felt he was mentally ill, and.
Like a manic depressive kind of, or actually mentally ill? Mentally
ill when you never knew just what was going to come out of him. And unfortunately, I think our president is pretty much the kind of, he reminds me so much of Charles.
That is so, because I...
Did you?
No, I never knew Mingus, but the idea of Trump, the mental illness. But there's a narcissism there mixed in with that?
All of this, they're all these things, you know. They're not just stupid or crazy and ready to hurt somebody. Sometimes Charles was a little boy, beautiful and sweet. And then he could be such a monster, and I would say something to him, because my fights with Charles is almost always about somebody else, not me. He didn't criticize my playing. It was because I don't like a bully, and he bullied people.
Yeah, that's right.
And Charles, I liked Horace Parlin, who had only use of 3 digits on his right hand. He didn't have the use of the ring finger and the middle finger. He had polio, and Charles said to him once, "I only hired you because you're handicapped." And I hit the. We were playing at Minton's, and as we were getting off the bandstand, I waited and let them leave, and I went to him and I said, "How could you be so mean to him? To say something like that?" I said, "You're bigger. It's your band. He's younger.
Yeah, why can't you be bigger than that?"
Yeah, and you know what he did? He started crying, and so we came back, finished that day. We had a month. And he called me. He'd only been there on the second night. He called me the next day and said, "Hey man," he said, "Why don't you let Jimmy Nepper finish the gig?" You know, in other words, I was up because of what you said.
Oh my gosh!
Let Jimmy Nepper finish the gig. So okay, because I really didn't want to play with him, and Jimmy lasted 2 days and he called me back. I came back and finished the gig because he couldn't, like Trump, I think, he would be the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got nobody left in the cabinet. I mean, everyone's, leaving. The turnover's insane.
Yeah, well,
McPherson said that, Charlie McPherson said that I mean, just from an audience point of view, that, they'd be up in Western Canada. I know you spent a lot of time up there and eventually took all your cats up there, like Donnie, Terry and Don. But one night there was like a real like Canadian football team and and they were making a lot of noise. Mingus didn't like people playing when he was playing ballads, and he came down. He went into the bathroom and got a plunger and started and these guys were huge. This 300-pound dude got up, and Mingus was quick. He was
very quick.
So agile, like a big man, but I mean quick. And the guy took a swing at him, and Mingus took his momentum and just tossed him across the floor. But I mean, the man again, they get mythologized.
Well, I heard that he also he had actually physically hit two of those guys, and that was they didn't fight back or so. The thing with Charles about the violence stuff, I never saw it. Once I did. You
saw the bullying, but you didn't see the violence.
Only once, and he was totally. I agreed with initially on a number of things, but he would take it like overdo.
Right.
He would always. You could have said that. You don't have to go that far, Charlie. You don't have to get that deep into the and make it much worse and bigger than it actually was, and or is, and. He couldn't stand it. I feel that if somebody ever approached us, anybody on the bandstand, somebody that he'd talked nasty to, and it was Charles would be the first one to defend you with his body. I knew that because I'm that way. If I've got friends, I would never, somebody did something harmful, insults on the street, and I'd be the first person to defend anybody who was with me. And maybe even, from without or my confines. But yes, Charles was, and then some of the music was beautiful. Some of it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
That goes for probably most anybody.
Yeah, people keep saying it. Hey, this is this. No, some of that music. That's why and I was about the music, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want to play with him, because he would take something beautiful and then especially if he saw that you liked it, if you appeared to like it, he seemed that if he would change things just because you liked it.
One of his compositions, if you were getting off on it, he would change it if you liked it.
Yes, it seemed if he should. Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
All right, play for peace, John.
Yeah. I've tried to, and I want to, and I will.
Much love to you, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
It's an honor.
It's great to see you, Jacob. Come back.
I will.
Visit. Come back when it's bring your wetsuit though for the pool. It's always cold.
It finally feels good down here. At least we're not freezing to death anymore. It was. But yeah, if you could just finish with a little medley, that'd be great.
Medley.
Not medley. Yeah, just play for peace.
Goodbye, pork pie.
Yeah, that was about you know what? By the way, I never learned that the way people play it now, because he never gave us the chords. That piece is terrifically difficult. The chords that he played. We didn't. He never gave us music to anything, and that I never quite understood or forgave him for.
But the significance is that you caught that. They captured that moment. I mean, that's why Grover Washington and I used to hear that. We used to listen to that album every night when we were in the Army together, and not even realizing that it was John. But I mean, it's capturing that moment.
Right.
That's
right.
what jazz is about.
And so he didn't give you music to
Only
read.
the piano player had the chords to anything, and I'm sure we could play the melody, but I played mostly blues and with some of the alterations of alternate chords scales.
Don't even get technical. It was like what you guys felt. That's what it's about. You know, people say, well, I think I'm going to play this, you know, do this transition and go from this chord change to this chord change, and I'm going to hit this, as opposed to just what you guys felt, the way it hit you. And that's what jazz is about. It's not analyzing it to, you know, this and that. It's like really being in the moment so that the instrument is an extension of what you're thinking.
Let me put something out in your mind here that
Put it in my mind. Put it in our minds.
It's kind of comical in a way. The only person who played on that solo, I thought Charles took a solo out for many years until not long ago, maybe 2 years. I was the only soloist. I didn't know that. I thought he was, but it's because of what he played. You know, we did some tremolo type things, which nobody ever says that's the tremolo with the thing that I do.
That's your signature.
Ross was the only person I know who could do that. My best friend was showing me some
Flutter tucking. Tonguing.
It's tremolo.
Yeah.
Tremolo like you do with the violin.
I did.
Yeah, it's tremolo. And anyhow, my best friend in high school was showing and asked me to do something, and I could do it twice as fast, but I can't single tongue very fast. You know,
Yeah.
I can't do that very. I can triple tongue sort of at times. It's really very hard.
Yeah.
What I knew, but I've done. Then so Ross can do that. So Ross showed up, and Randy Wesson, we were doing the man.
Yeah, right.
And he showed up, and he sat in, and Mingus happened to have been in the audience at the bar, and he just went ape, so to speak, as he did with me. I never saw him react like that as he did when he came that night, and he asked me to sit in. I'd already played. I went gig hunting because we got my wife, and I hate to say she was my manager, and the young lady from Palo Alto, and she brought other people there that we couldn't afford, you know, to two singers, and who came with no money, and we were there, and was spending our money on people who really should have come there with something, and you know, I had a few gigs, and we're still living in a hotel. So anyhow, it was the first time in my life ever then or now afterwards I got behind on rent. I mean, I get in a hotel, and we went there with enough money, and a few gigs were happening. So I went down. I put on in the summer, you know, here at night you could put on a sports coat. It was summer there. It was hot, horn rim glasses. I went to the 5 spot because Frank Foster was playing. They were playing. The Basie band was in town, and so on Monday nights, the side people get the gigs, you know. So I was going to see Frank. I knew him here, and I got there, and I think it was a late recording, so he wasn't there. Phineas Newborn was the pianist, the house person that night.
Calvin just passed. Calvin
did?
He just passed,
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
Phineas was the house piano player.
Roy Haynes on drums.
Oh.
And George Joyner, who became Jamil Nasir, who was a bass player who played with Ahmed Jamal. And I sat in with them. Nobody else was sitting in. And so after a while, Frank and Thad Jones, you know, showed up. And I got off the bandstand because I'd been playing, you know. And Charles came in, and they started to play. And they played a tune or so, and Charles, I was sitting, like I was facing the bandstand at the bar. And Charles said, "Hey guys, why don't you all let this guy play? He could see my horn." And I said, "I played already, you know." And Frank said he can play if he wants to. And so I went there looking for a gig because I needed a gig. We'd gotten broke. So I went up and started, you know, and I actually, they let me call the tune, "There'll Never Be Another You." And, you know, it's the Sheep Herders of Lament. So they let me play that, and I could play it. you know,
Oh, yeah.
I had a good night.
No doubt.
And Charles started jumping, man, Bird's back, man. And it was like so good to him that he, you know, Charles is a big man.
Yeah.
And the 5-spot had those saloon doors, the double doors. He was so excited. It just was feigning this because it was embarrassing after a while, you know. He ran to the doors and it was like he couldn't take it anymore. And he hit those doors and it made this big noise. And he came back in. And he was on the right was a phone booth, and Sonny Rollins was sitting in the phone booth. And he said, Sonny, Bird's back. And Sonny said, yeah. So while I was still on the bandstand, he was, you know, was almost as close as you. Oh, let's to the wall. Hey, baby, are you playing anywhere? And I said, no, like that. And he said, well, you open here with me in 2 weeks. And that's how I got started with Charles.
Oh, wow.
With Charles Mingus. Now, on this piece, what happened there is on the Goodbye Pork Pie I had on the recording, the session was supposedly music similar to Jelly Roll Martin. That's how we played da 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 da, my Jelly Roll Soul, and T.O. Mercero kept saying, Charles, when you're gonna do Jelly Roll? And so anyhow, we found. We got down to this, and we did. Charles wanted. We did that Jelly Roll thing,
Right.
And Charles, by the way, he said, you know, he wanted us to play in that style, and he later criticized me for playing the way I considered. You know, that's the way they play. Don't you know? Tell me to do that, and then he said it was corny. Well, damn right, it was corny. That's the way they play. So it's like this man that we're, you know, our president. You never know.
Just so the more you like it, the more he pushes you away.
Yeah. Well, what happened is we started to play this. I think it was the last piece, Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. We were running out of tape, and that's why I was the only one who took a solo. Mm-hmm. You know, he usually featured me on this. You know, and Booker was always kind of second because I played alto and I was used to playing lead. That's why I played. And in tenor also. So that's why I'm the only one who's soloing on it.
We're lucky because of it.
Yeah, we were running out of tape, and we thought at any minute. And by the way, I was standing on one leg, and I was afraid if I moved, I would have made, you know, something would have gone wrong. And the mic,
Playing on one leg.
I was standing pretty much, all my weight was on one side, like that, and afraid to move. The moods changed the whole thing, and because of my playing 3 instruments, I played tenor, alto, and clarinet. They move the mic, and when on like the first solo on there, Better Get in Your Soul, I sound like I'm in another room, and I'm playing the tenor, and so I stood up and took a solo, and the weight was on, and like a horn was there, so I couldn't move. And I was afraid I was going to get a cramp. It would have run. We couldn't take it. So we had no more tape. So that's what happened. Is I was supposed to. There were supposed to have been other soloists. And
Well, finish up. Let's end the set.
oh, a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Well, this horn is not. I don't know it anymore. Oh, my foot's in the way.
John Handy, thank you for being part of the program, man.
Thank you. I think I played it in that key. That's the original key, by the way.
Yeah.
And I heard it. The next time I played it was about 15 years later with Ed Kelly, and we didn't get together. And we came from different places to play on the stage, and he was playing in F. This is E flat minor, and he was playing in another key, and I had to play it right. And somehow I made it, you know.
Well, you did, and you keep going, man. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you all in a little bit.